So it's finally here, the JBL Xtreme 2. Really looking forward to trying this speaker out. Well, I was 2 weeks ago. I had this speaker on back order and then they lost the order. So I'm like 2 weeks after everybody else. I'm kind of gutted about that. Not that it matters. So I'm going to do a quick unboxing and then I'm going to spend some time with it. See what it's like to actually use in reality, not just the sound. And then do a detailed video later down the line. So this is basically my unboxing, quick talk about it. I do have the Xtreme 1, so I would do some comparisons with the Xtreme 1. However, at this point, before I unbox it, I'm just going to say there are a couple of weird things that I wasn't expecting. There is a difference on AC power and on battery. On the Xtreme 1, you got 30 watts on battery, 40 watts on AC power. Still get 40 watts on AC power according to the specs, but it's 20 watts on battery power. So there's some confusion over that. People are still saying, no, it's 30 watts, because the old one was. However, according to JBL, they do actually say, yes, it is 20 watts and not 30 watts like the Xtreme 1. So that's a bit weird. Don't forget, early doors, they said 50 watts. Turns on the specs now, 40 watts on AC power. So there's inconsistencies in what they are saying, and not just in what they're saying, between what they're saying and reality. However, clearly, the sound is more tailored to indoor listening than the Xtreme 1. So personally, I'm quite happy about that. So I'm not going to go into all that detail. I just want to say before I unbox it, that's what I'm already aware of. So it is kind of weird. Kind of taking the gloss off what we thought was going to be. It's going to be louder. It's going to sound better. But no, there's clearly trade-offs, and I don't know what JBL are really doing because the specs are kind of weird. Even the box is a bit sparse compared to the details they used to give. Basically, all you're getting information here is 15 hours playtime. You know, theoretically that should be mixed use. So in real world, it doesn't really tell you a lot other than comparing to other JBL speakers. They should all be measured in the same way. So it should tell you relatively if it will play longer or less. Now, according to that, it should play for exactly the same time as the Xtreme 1 on a 5,000 milliamp battery. I'm not sure how that works. IPX7, of course, fully submergible, I think to 1 meter, but it floats with the drivers pointing down into water. So, just weird. It's like this is something that was an afterthought, and they've hurried to market. You know, they're still using the old AC adapter, no USB-C charging. As far as I can recall, you've got a lot more of the pictures on the old box, I can't remember. But it seems less going on. It seems like, oh, we better put something out and call it the Xtreme 2. Anyway, so there it is. So inside, one empty box, stick it down that. So that is just for me, and I've got small hands, just no longer hand holdable. I can't hold that. Whereas I could still do the Xtreme 1 with one hand, kind of. Just about. Cannot pick that up with one hand. If you've got big hands, you probably can, I'm quite sure. However, it's clearly bigger. However, the top appears identical. The straps are different. So obviously you've got a bigger strap, bigger body. So, whereas you had this flap, which I always found a bit awkward because it's hard to really get into. You've got your two charging outputs there, as well as your auxiliary, but it's always slightly awkward to get into. You can't go straight now. So, the power lights on the front of the Xtreme 1, I assume still there. So that they're there. I mean, slightly more obscured, but the flap is obviously more sturdy. Obviously, the Xtreme 1 being splash proof, now being waterproof, they've had to improve the flap. So to me, this is a big improvement because that I always found awkward. However, once this is open, no problems. Got one charging out, one service port, one auxiliary, and of course the power in. Now, given that if you want to play it loud, you have to use that power in. Yeah, no, I guess that's fine. So it would just go at an angle. I thought it might be a bit more obscured down there, but yeah, the power port is fine. Almost identical. Not a huge amount of imagination there. Because a lot of these problems, well, I say problems, inconsistencies, and maybe lack of advancement, people are blaming Samsung for not knowing what they're doing since taking over JBL. So the strap, which I'm going to have to use with the Xtreme 2, whereas I didn't really bother on the Xtreme 1 because I could hold it with one hand. And of course the bottle opener everybody's talking about, making fun of, but you know, why not? You know, if you're at a pool party you would be using that. So you know, personally, not only would I put a bottle opener, I put, you know, like a Swiss Army knife kind of tool, like you've got a million different things. So because it's little things like that that actually make the use of it that much more enjoyable. You know, it's like getting sweets when you've bought something that's got nothing to do with sweets, but you know, oh, it's a free gift. Little things can make a difference. So put my clip on. Maybe I'll test the bottle opener. So, I mean, I could have jazzed it up a bit. I mean, there's no real branding, is there? There's the yellow stitching that matches the yellow JBL, but to be honest, that's actually red. So, yeah, it's kind of like a product that they've not really wanted to do, but thought, well, we better put something out because people are going to buy it. So, me 3-pin plugs and a 2-pin plug. Your AC adapter, which you're going to have to use, and of course your booklet. So that's it. There's no fancy accessories, not even the coloured USB leads that you get with the smaller speakers. So just to go over what I know about this speaker, and then just have a quick play of it and see what it actually sounds like, and then I will go off and live with it for a while and do a detailed review. Something that did occur to me, if you look at a lot of the comments on the earlier videos of the Xtreme 2 that are doing the rounds, you know, it's a Marmite speaker, clearly, or I really like it, it's a big improvement, it's terrible, it's worse than all the others, I wouldn't buy it, there's better value, blah blah blah. However, it's horses for courses. I really like the cylindrical shape, and now it's waterproof. Now I could drop it in water and play it with the drivers facing down. However, the point being I was going to make, and I think people are missing, is it's very much like cameras now. When you buy glass and lenses for your cameras, you get hooked into a certain brand because now you have party mode on all these modern speakers, which you never used to have. Play up to 100 plus speakers in JBL Connect Plus. Once you've got a couple of JBL speakers, or 3 or 4, you can now play them in party mode. You can't, so it's no good saying, well, I can get the docking fine, the Xtreme killer, and all these other speakers they're talking about, but you can't play it with any of your other JBL. So once you get tied into a brand, and I do like the form factor, so I have got a lot of JBL speakers, so I can play all my Connect Plus speakers in party mode. I can dock them all around the place, so that's a huge deal. So whereas you can get a speaker that sounds a bit better, or it's better value for money, it's not going to play with all my other speakers. So if there's not much in it, I'd rather have the Xtreme 2. It's not going to go as loud as something else, or another one is better in another one. However, now you have to consider the whole brand. If you tied into several speakers of one brand, stuck with that brand, if you want to use party mode, which is a big deal. Now if you're only ever going to have one speaker, okay, you're just going to get the best value for you. However, I think a lot of people now have several speakers, and there's only one way they can connect them all together wirelessly. That's using the same brand. So the specs are 40 watts on battery, but of course 30 watts, 20 watts on AC power. That's weird. I'm not going to go deep into the specs because I want to do that in another video, but I think the most important thing to think about here, if you're thinking about Xtreme 1, Xtreme 2, is Connect Plus. So Connect can only connect to Connect speakers, Connect Plus can only connect to Connect Plus speakers. It's amazing how many people are still confused about that. It would have been a lot easier if they would have said Connect and then a whole different name for the new version. So Connect and, I don't know, Apple 2. You would know where you are. But making Connect and Connect Plus just sounds like a more advanced feature of the first one, which you would assume to be backward compatible, and of course they're not. And they say that's because they are different Bluetooth versions. Bluetooth 4.2 apparently is required for Connect Plus, and the Xtreme 1 is Bluetooth 4.1. And one other thing I just want to point out, which was a big deal to me, and I don't think I've seen other people talk about, is the Bluetooth transmission power. If you look at the specs and you believe the specs, Xtreme 1 4 dBm, Xtreme 2 12.5 dBm. So on paper could be significantly more Bluetooth range if that's a big deal for you. So to me that was quite significant. Of all the features, perhaps that is something that if you had problems with your Bluetooth connection, maybe you're in a place with lots of walls and stuff and you need to connect through walls, this having more power in the Bluetooth transmission could well make a difference. It could be a deal breaker for you. So the other thing they're talking about is 3D passive radiators. So it's kind of rubberized and it stands out a bit. I don't know if it's truly what I would call 3D. In other words, a cone-shaped passive radiator, which would be different if it's from being flat. And quite honestly, it is kind of, well, it is curved. I'm not sure if I would really call that cone shape. However, they're saying all the drivers, everything is upgraded, uprated, and it now goes to 55 Hertz without quoting plus or minus the decibels. Always note that. So we don't really know how they're calculating that frequency range. So you'd normally expect them to quote normally plus or minus 3 decibels. You could assume that's what they mean, because does seem to be, they are pretty accurate when they say, you know, from 65 Hertz. Normally that speaker does have a bass peak at what they're saying is the frequency range. Of course it will play lower than that, but at drastically reduced decibel. So I'm going to have a quick play. I'm going to do a longer video when I've lived with it and have a chance to really understand it a bit more, you know, than just in the difference in the sound. But I'm hoping it's going to be much better for indoor use.
Clock is ticking, but there's no time for me. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe trying to protect your soul. We are heroes. Clock is ticking, but there's no time for me. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe trying to protect your soul. We are heroes. I remember you. You lift my spirit. With you high is all I'm feeling. Remember how we felt alive. I remember you. You make me stronger. Can't go without it much longer. Remember. I remember you. You lift my spirit. With you high is all I'm feeling.
singing a brand new song. Yeah, it's you. Girl, I wake up in the morning and I'm tripping 'cause I'm digging what the Lord has made. It's you. Never thought I'd be forever getting with it, but I'm oh so glad you stayed. It's you. You make it better. You got a brother singing a brand new song. Yeah, it's you. Girl, I wake up in the morning and I'm tripping 'cause I'm digging what the Lord has made. It's you. Never thought I'd be forever getting with it, but I'm oh so glad you stayed. It's you. You make it better.
So, on my quick initial listen, I'm kind of disappointed. So, I knew it was going to go lower. Apparently more hi-fi tuned. Not that that really matters to me, to be quite honest. However, I thought it meant it would be smoother across the frequency range. First of all, it sounds more boxy than I was expecting. It doesn't really come out of the confines of the speaker, so I am aware, much like the much talked about FIFA Oslo, problem I had was it was too boxy for me, like a mono sound. I'm not saying this is mono, I'm saying this is clearly a wider sound, but quite boxed in, not very wide, given the size of the enclosure. So that was, you know, kind of, I was never really aware of the Xtreme one being too boxy, and it always just sounded okay to me. Whereas I was immediately struck that this wasn't very wide, maybe because I'm expecting it to sound like the Bolet 17 that I had. I did send back, however, I did really like it, but I couldn't use it at low volume, and that was a real problem to me. Now that I can use this at low volume, I can hear that, but the Bolet 17 was clearly wider. I mean, it was set, it's made to sound wide, you know, the way they got the drivers basing. However, so that was a disappointment already. On any initial, my feelings may change, and there may be some burning involved. You know, there's a lot of discussion. Does it matter? Does it not matter? I find they do change in sound over a period of time. It could be that a little bit play and it's going to really open up the sound. It does happen. Very aware of this. Now, it's not a high-end sibilant treble. However, it doesn't sound completely natural. It kind of sounds on the brittle side, but it's very up front. I can imagine that being quite wearing over time. And the thing is, there seems a big disconnect between the high-end treble and that bass. The bass, you know, clearly kicks in lower, but there seems not a lot in between. So you immediately thinking, oh, down to 55 Hz is going to sound a lot warmer. But to me it doesn't. It doesn't sound like a warm speaker, because there isn't that mid-range. I like a lot of mid-range warmth. To me, that's where you get lushness to the sound. So I'm completely missing that. I'm disappointed from that aspect. You know, a lot of this is probably down to expectations. It's clearly more usable because the bass goes lower, but without being, you know, that slap in the head that it's clearly designed to give you, which I don't particularly think is great, but how it does make it a great outdoor speaker. So yeah, I'm not quite sure about the tuning. It does sound an unnatural up front, but I do like it that the vocals clearly break free of the rest of the music, which is some pole speakers I've had a problem with. However, it doesn't sound very natural. It sounds a little bit brittle. Something I think could be wearing. So I'm disappointed. I was expecting a warmer sound, a more together sound and a wider sound. Now I may change my views after hearing a wider range of music. I just want to say my first impressions were what they're worth. On first listen, I'm slightly disappointed. At the price range, if they were the same price, because that's 150 quid now basically, isn't it? This was £150, you say, yeah, well, that is a good option. However, it's not. With the 10% code, which is free or available for JBL, you get this for 250 at the moment. So, a bit disappointed. However, it will be interesting to see what a pair of these do, because then obviously you're guaranteed wide stereo. However, is that tuning? And by the way, on a quick listen, with the Connect button on, it does sound a little bit smoother. But I'm going to do all this in a later video, probably several videos down the line, because there is a lot to get your teeth into, especially when you start using these with, you know, the Flip 4, for instance, hooked up to your other speakers. The Charge 3, which I wish wasn't Connect Plus now, but is Connect because I've upgraded it. All these now become options to play together. So it will be interesting to see how they all hook up together, how they all sound together. But, yeah, at the price level, and given like 3 years later, I would say this is a bit of a disappointment on first impressions. So yeah, I'm going to put a lot more into future videos if you're still interested, you know, exactly how it compares frequency range wise with the Xtreme one and all the other speakers, blah blah blah, down the line, and go into a bit more detail on the specs. So thank you for watching. UK.